Oh, hey everyone, this is Albert Chatmon. Hey, I really love these shoes. I think the first time I bought them, I was probably 17 or 18 years old. My boys actually call them the old man shoes. I remember a time when we were young, back in elementary school, when a young boy that I used to know, a friend of mine, he didn't have good shoes. As a matter of fact, his shoes would be worn out or might even have holes in them. And I remember some of the young guys used to make fun of him. My mom used to tell us, you can tell a lot about a person by their shoes. I want you to listen to this video and we'll talk a little bit more in a moment.
Okay, so I have a confession to make. I'm a judgmental person. You might not think it to look at me. Then again, maybe you would, if you're judgmental like me. But I don't often take the time or energy to put myself in someone else's shoes. I kind of thought it would be easier once I became a Christian, but it's not. It actually got harder. But somewhere along the way, I got the idea that it was my job to discern others' faults so that I could steer them on the right path. Wait a minute, is that what the Bible says? You see, at the end of the day, I'm really just a selfish person. My thoughts and my actions, they're usually based on my own little world and how I perceive it. It's easier just to look at the little clues about people, feed them into my own little formula, and spit out my analysis of who I think they are and how right or wrong their behavior is. The real problem is that I get so fixated on people's actions, I completely miss out on their heart. I don't put myself in their shoes at all. I want them to wear mine. When I stop to look at the core of someone's behavior, I realize they're not so different from me. They have the same struggles that I do, the same desire to connect to something deeper than this physical world around us. They just have a unique expression of what it means to be human. That is the frustrating beauty of God's children, so unique, yet so alike. There was one person who really understood this whole idea of putting yourself in someone else's shoes. He could look past the stench of a common fisherman and see the rock that the church would be built on. He watched as a prostitute poured perfume on his feet, and he rebuked the religious elites who whispered, "Wasteful." He looked at a woman caught in the very act of adultery and defended her by challenging the stone throwers to look at their own hearts instead. His name is Jesus, and his example stands before us. So I have to ask myself, whose shoes am I being asked to walk in today?
Oh, you finished? Hey, yes, I'm still holding my shoes. But that was a good video, wasn't it? It makes you stop and think. Different people have different types of shoes. As a matter of fact, it reminds me of a story I read where a friend of mine was attending a church, and at the church he recognized that the pastor was wearing $500 shoes. It bothered him that his pastor would wear shoes that were very expensive. $500? They were in a location where people couldn't even afford shoes, and here was his pastor wearing $500 shoes. After a while, he decided, I'm going to confront my pastor and let him know I think it's wrong that you're wearing $500 shoes. So he went up to his pastor and he said, "Sir, I want to know why you're wearing $500 shoes." And to the surprise of the pastor, he looked down and said, "What? These shoes are worth $500? And my friend said, "Yes, they're worth $500. And he said, "Well, I'm glad you told me, because they were a gift. I didn't know how much they cost." You see, when we judge people without really being in their shoes, sometimes we make great mistakes. God calls us to be compassionate towards one another. Don't judge a person without being in their shoes. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining the Albert Chatmon Morning Show. We hope to see you next week. Remember, it's all about being born again. It's all about being committed to God. And it's all about being real. I guess I should put my shoes back on, huh? We'll see you next time.